call is now being recorded.
All right, welcome to Taco Bout Life. Today we have such a special guest with us, none other than the amazing superwoman, Tasia Percevecz. Go ahead, Tasia, say hello.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Woo! Wow, what a champion. For everyone who doesn't know, I had the privilege of putting Tasia in the dirt on a day-to-day basis, training with her from, 2015 to 2017?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is true, the other part not so much, but we did train together from 2015 to 2017, and at such time, I put you in the dirt over and over again.
I did beat you in some open workouts.
Every once in a while, but you did not win the open overall.
Well, you know, the men's field is a lot more difficult to compete in. So
we did it based on ourselves.
No, well,
I beat you in 3 of the 5 workouts.
That's all right. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to talk about me. I want to know all about you. I'm so excited. Some of these questions I don't know the answers to, so I want to get full detail. You know, I want to get the real deal, Tasia. Okay? Are you prepared?
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So we're going to just tee it off with an easy one. So I know you grew up in Arizona, right?
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, whether you want to, discuss your siblings, your schooling, or whatever it may be. What was special about growing up in Arizona?
All right, so I was born and raised in Arizona. I have 2 brothers, Caleb and Zach, and a sister, Tamar. I am the second middle between my brothers, Caleb and Zach, so that was an interesting upbringing in a sense of I was always getting beaten up, and we were always fighting, and, just how kids play, whatever. My mother, she raised me and my 3 siblings on her own, and she is awesome and incredible and just literally the epitome of a superwoman. I definitely learned a lot from her growing up. I did gymnastics starting at the age of 5, and pretty much that was my main focus until I went off to college.
What was it about gymnastics that first, spoke to you? What got you in the gym at 5 years old?
I guess my mom, really. She just put me in it. I don't remember, choosing to be in it per se, but I immediately fell in love with it as far as, flipping around and stuff. That's fun to do, and I think it kind of instilled just hard work in me at a young age.
All right. Okay. And now, you got to educate me on gymnastics because, there's a whole bunch of categories, right?
Okay, yeah.
So what did you do? Tumble or vault or whatever? What did you do?
So women's gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, we compete in vault, bars, beam, and floor. So growing up, I competed in all 4 events. You train all 4 events every day. Is a lot of training that goes into it. At one point, by the time I turned 13, I was training in the morning before school, going to school, and then training after school. So it was just kind of like a full-time job as a 13-year-old.
Oh, damn. Okay. So you were you're all in. You're ready to be the best gymnast in the world.
Yep, all in. That's true.
At that point in time. And now, that's when the Olympic athletes basically begin their campaign, right? Is when they're in that young teenage group, or am I wrong in thinking that?
No, you're correct. I mean, from most girls that are, even thinking about the Olympics, I was thinking about the Olympics probably even before that. That was what you want to do because that's the ultimate goal of gymnastics. And I worked really hard at gymnastics, but I was never as naturally talented as some of the other girls. So that was definitely not in my plan, even though I wanted it to be.
Now, Tasia, you don't need to be so hard on yourself because, I mean, natural athleticism, like, that is your middle name, I thought.
Not exactly, but I am good at certain things that involve body awareness, but it doesn't extend much further past that.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's settled, and we'll leave it at that. But so you get a scholarship to go to UNH, right, with gymnastics.
I did, yes, that is true.
So, you do have some sort of athleticism within you. I'm sure it's buried deep down, but it's there.
It's there.
It's somewhere. You can find it in glimpses and pieces scattered all over the place. But so you do gymnastics, whatever, right? So, so what I want you to do is to take me back to the day you walk into a CrossFit gym for the first time. What's the workout? How did you do? And what were kind of the mental takeaways after all was said and done?
So I don't remember my first workout that I did. I do remember I was asked to do a partner competition, a scaled competition with one of my friends who was doing CrossFit, and he just thought I might be semi-fit so I could participate. And I was like, okay, I'll try and do it, but I definitely want to try it out first before I just go and compete. And, I went into the gym and it wasn't like a love at first sight thing. It was definitely cool to be in the atmosphere where I was like working out and had direction, because when I graduated college, I didn't really have direction as far as fitness. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it was good to have that direction.
Okay. And now, are we talking like you're getting humbled by these workouts as you're trying to like ramp up, or did you kind of have like some sort of carryover because of the gymnastics background, or what?
I mean, I think I had some sort of carryover as far as like the gymnastics movements, that I wasn't like completely starting at the bottom, but I was humbled, like all the time, over and over again. I mean, just like anyone that starts, I thought I was like a fit person, and then I started doing CrossFit and discovered I was actually not very fit.
Man, so it's not just woe is me for every single CrossFitter that's out there that's just starting. It's something that's universal, right?
Yeah, totally. It's everyone.
Right, because I find like so many, gym members, they'll be in their first month, and they're kind of dragging themselves off the floor, and they'll be so depressed thinking like, oh my gosh, everyone else can do this and I can't. But no one ever thinks like, okay, well imagine, this person's first day or Tasia's first day or whoever, right? Like I wish that message was more distributed throughout, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think that is very important to remember that, everyone's kind of starting in the same boat, feeling the same way. And I think one of the best things is, like it never gets easier. Like the pain that someone on the first day is feeling is probably the pain, the same pain that we're feeling 5 years in. You just get better.
Right. So, okay, so you do the comp, all that stuff goes. So basically what I want to know, and I'm sure, well, what I'm fascinated about is like, at what point during this journey did you say like, okay, maybe I'm not the greatest at this stuff right now, but I know that I have a lot of potential to get better. Like when did those thoughts start to occur?
So I did, when I first started CrossFit, I started in February, and I did the CrossFit Open that year, like a week or so after I started CrossFit. And I came in like 300 something in the Open, and I was like, okay, like I'm not very fit, whatever, I'm just going to do CrossFit for fun. So for a year, I just did, 1 hour classes a day, just, whatever stuff like that, doing CrossFit. And then when the Open came around again, I came in 60th place, or 64th place, which at the time they were taking top 45. So I was like very close to qualifying, and, that's kind of where in my mind switched. I was like, you weren't even, not that I wasn't trying, but I wasn't trying to be competitive, and I almost qualified to regionals, that I was like, okay, I think I can qualify to regionals. Like, I think I can do this. And that's when I started to take it more seriously.
Okay, yeah. And I think it was the top 60 back then, right? I thought,
oh, yeah,
I thought it was more than 45.
Yeah,
So
it might
yeah,
be
so
tough
you were
too. So
right.
I was
You
like,
were right there at such a such a still pretty early on in this journey. You're already knocking on the door. So I mean, boy, what it would be like to have your skill, right? We'd all just be amazing. But all right, so I want to. What was that funny?
yeah, it's just John being John. It's okay. Continue on.
I appreciate that. Okay, so yeah, so tell me about your mindset and how you began to develop, kind of maybe your mental toughness or whatever your niche was as you started to kind of climb the ranks and begin competing against bigger and bigger names in the sport. Like, were you hard on yourself? Was it difficult to kind of solidify, like, okay, I belong here, I'm good enough? Like, how did you do that, and what kind of difficulties maybe you ran into during that phase?
Well, I think it's actually something I'm still working on to this day. Anyone that knows me knows I'm probably my worst critic. I'm pretty hard on myself, and I think that plays to good things and also bad things. So, when I first started competing with the bigger names, I kind of just had no expectations. I just was like, please don't come in last. Like, I just didn't really want to come in last in these big competitions. And each time I would surprise myself and do something that I really was like, oh my gosh, can you believe I just came in this place, or that I, beat these girls in this thing. And it was kind of like, in the beginning, very much just surprising myself over and over again. And then when I qualified for the first time in 2016, that really felt like it solidified, at least for the time, that like I felt like I belonged there, that I was capable of it. Like, that whole year leading up was I worked really hard and everything just lined up, and to qualify for the games after only doing CrossFit for so long was such a huge accomplishment. It was almost overwhelming. And so I guess now moving forward past that, there's definitely been some highs and some lows as far as just like injuries and mindset, and to keep going. It's something that really is draining once you get to the end of our season. It's a very long season. So just kind of making sure to get your mind right, which, there's a lot of different ways and things to do that, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. And I think it's fascinating because, it's everyone deals with that dilemma, I mean, whether you're a person at the CrossFit Games, or probably if you're a person just in a local box taking a class. Like, I'm sure if you start taking class with maybe people that are a little bit better than you, you still have that wall in your head, like, oh my gosh, I need to climb over this wall, but these athletes are, so much better than me. I don't think I can get over this hurdle. But I think that's a good way of looking at it, is just kind of having no expectation and maybe just surprising yourself and seeing that you do survive, and, you end up on the other side. So that's really cool. So I like that answer. And I'm enjoying where we're going with this conversation. So you just touched upon it, 2016, first trip to the CrossFit Games as an individual, which is amazing, right? That's the goal that, a ton of athletes have, right? And if anybody hasn't seen it, right, I would advise that they go back and watch the final event of regionals, right? Would you say that was kind of a big deal?
I think it was pretty cool.
Why don't you give us a quick summary of that? Because I know that was a big moment for you, and you have kind of a cool story behind that last event. I mean, you can kind of set the scene if you want, or you can just jump right into how things unfolded. It's up to you. So,
Sure.
What is it, Event 7, 2016, East Regional?
Yeah, so I mean, to just give you a little perspective, going into the weekend, obviously wanted to qualify for the CrossFit Games. Day one went according to plan, and then day two, I just completely imploded on a workout that was actually two workouts back to back, where I came in the 20s, like in both of them, which is pretty much like detrimental to qualifying for the CrossFit Games if you're taking low places like that. So finish out that day of those two low places, I was just kind of like, all right, well, you blew it. So might as well just have fun with the rest of it and, move on from that. So the workout after those two on Saturday, was kind of supposed to be damage control, just based on my strengths and weaknesses. And I went in and came in second place somehow. I don't even know. It was really cool. Finished that weekend or that day. So after the end of that day, I moved up a little bit, so I was still in the top 10. And then the morning of the final day of competition, we had a workout that went pretty well for me. I think I came in like 4th or something. So it bumped me up to where I was sitting 4 points out of 5th place in top 5 qualify. And the point spread as far as like each place is 5 points. So if I could beat out the girl ahead of me who's in 5th by 1 place, then, I would qualify or whatever. So it was pretty much I had to, if I won the workout, that would guarantee my spot. Same with the girl who's in 5th. And then if I didn't win the workout, I would still have to beat her plus maybe a few other people depending on how the points shook out as you go down in places. And lucky for me, the last final workout was perfect, literally perfect for me. And I knew at that point I was just I do a lot of visualization, and I visualized that workout so many times leading up. And, actually a lot of times I'd visualize it exactly how it happened. So pretty much having a lead from the start and then just, coming out over the finish line, first, which is kind of crazy because I normally, when I visualize, a lot of times I have to correct myself from visualizing bad things happening. But that workout, I had visualized so many times good things happening. And going into it, I was just very at peace. I knew that it was, it was going to shake out however it was going to shake out. And I was really comfortable with the movements. Legless rope climbs are my favorite ever. So pretty much to, end the story, I was able to win that workout, and set a world record. And the even crazier part is the girl who I had to beat came in second. So it's just so crazy that both of us were so good at that workout,
Right.
But to qualify for my first games with a world record, it was, a very overwhelming feeling and something I don't know if I'll ever be able to recreate what it felt like, but it was very cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, watching from the stands and seeing how it happened, it was kind of like a Cinderella story almost to see you, if anybody goes on YouTube and watches it, I mean, you just come out guns blazing, and you and the girl who kind of who you were, battling with were kind of just going at it, and you just kind of pull away there right at the end, and it was just, a really great moment. So yeah, that was awesome. That was kind of a segue of where I was going with this, but you're back, you make it as an individual, right? So, biggest takeaway, and you're in California, right? So biggest takeaway, and finally, how did you find the drive when it's all said and done, right? The weekend's over in California, coming back. How do you find motivation, or maybe you don't, but, what is your thought of, I want to get back here versus shit, I'm exhausted. This wasn't easy and I have so much work to get done. Biggest takeaway, and how did you get back onto the training afterwards?
I guess the biggest takeaway would be just trusting myself more, believing myself a little bit more, because same thing, qualifying for the games was really cool, but going into it, there's that fear of I'm going to come in last place, or, I'm just not good enough. And I ended up coming in 15th, which was so incredible. I exceeded my expectations as far as, doing well in workouts that I didn't think I would do well in. And I think just a testament of you really do have to go in and believe in yourself, because I had some moments at my first games where I was just not in the right mindset, just because I was putting too much pressure on myself when it really didn't matter. And then as far as coming back, it definitely is a deflating feeling in a sense of the CrossFit Games was the mecca. It was all I wanted for so long. That was the only thing I could think about, and I would have sacrificed anything to go. So to go and for it to end is kind of just it's a really weird feeling to be done with something that you've been waiting for so long. So coming back was hard for a bit, just trying to find out, you know, I was definitely motivated because I felt like I was still feeling good physically, like my body, I was feeling good, and I knew I could do better, and I was motivated by the fact that I had done so well. But it definitely took a lot of mental, I guess, fortitude to keep pushing at that same pace going into the next year.
Yeah, I think that that's super fascinating because, you know, like you're saying, like we've all have, or I'm sure many of us have a goal in mind where it's like, boy, I would do anything. I wake up every day trying to get to achieve this goal. I mean, let's say you want to be a millionaire, right? Like the day that you finally, you know, cash a check and all of a sudden you're a millionaire, it's kind of like, well, now what do I do? So it's funny how there's really no difference between that or making it to the CrossFit Games or, you know, buying a fancy car. It's kind of like, you know, shit, where do I go from here? But you did get back and you started training again, and I was there. I saw it. We trained together, which was awesome. And I know it wasn't mentally easy for you to come back and just get annihilated by me and, you know, WOD after WOD. But again, we're not here to talk about that. So,
right.
All right.
Totally.
So 2017, unfortunately, you don't make the games. Off season though, you get like a text message from a guy named Rich Froning, right? So tell me about that. You know, was there rumors floating around before then? Had you heard anything? Was it completely out of the blue? And, you know, what was your immediate reaction?
It was definitely out of the blue for me. I, you know, hadn't even thought about like going on a team or like moving to be on a team or whatever, and I had got a message from CrossFit Mayhem Freedom that they had an open girl spot and they were looking to find someone. They wanted me to come down. And, you know, at first I was kind of like, like I was just kind of like, because I didn't even think about something like that. Like I hadn't even processed a situation like this happening for me. So I kind of took just a second to think about it. And then I was like, at, you know, minimum, I have to go, you know, to like, you know, visit and see if I like it, you know what I mean? Because like to just say no to something straight up like that, I think is, you know, those are situations that people regret. You know, they're like, I didn't even give it a chance. And I wasn't 100% positive I wanted to go right off the bat, but I knew I wanted to give it a chance. And then when I went on my trip, it was like instant that I wanted to be there. I was like, I'll do anything to come, you know, be on what was, you know, or is the fittest team in the world, and an opportunity that, you know, extends past just, you know, fitness, like being around someone who's so great, like Rich, you know, and that's even more than fitness. He's a great person. He's like teaches people a lot, you know, and then the other people that they bring in here, I've just made some really solid friendships and had a chance to like grow in different areas that I hadn't planned on growing, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it is an opportunity of a lifetime. And like you said, it would be selfish to just completely shun it upon, you know, getting that first message. And I think you definitely did the right thing. So that's awesome. So, okay. So you moved to Tennessee, completely, you know, switch your environments. You know, I make the assumption that you begin training as a team year round. What I want to know is, what was the biggest or like the hardest adjustment you found through the whole thing? Was it, you know, maybe not knowing a lot of people, or the uncertainty of the brand new environment you're in? Was it, you know, training for a team versus individual, or maybe the stress of, you know, who you're in the company of? Like what was the hardest adjustment that you found as you transition to this next phase?
I feel like they're all pretty hard adjustments. For me, when I was coming in, I was still, you know, coming back from a labrum tear and a stress fracture in my foot and a scaphoid fracture in my foot. So I was coming in not at my peak. And I think for me, I had this like stress I put on myself of like, I know they wanted me to come, but I also didn't take it lightly that I needed to perform and I needed to be, you know, what I was capable of. And that was definitely self-inflicted pressure, but I think very valuable too, because it is a job when it comes to something like this. Like I couldn't just come in and be like, oh, no, I'm going to do my own thing and whatever, we'll figure it out. You know, like there were expectations on me right from the start. So I think that was a hard adjustment mentally of just being like making sure I was being smart with healing my injuries and moving forward and still getting fitter. And then just, I mean, working out with them, all the people here, and even like Rich, you know, like it has never been a hard situation at all. I think, you know, everyone's just people when it comes down to it, and I've never been a super like starstruck person. So coming into the environment where these people are, I guess, more well known, that part wasn't as stressful as I think other people might think it would be. And then just, you know, like getting a new routine, because I'm a very routine person, and back home I had a schedule for every day that was pretty much the exact same every week, and I never missed it. And then I come to, it's almost like when you go off to college for the first time and you're like, all right, now what? Everything's different. So finding that routine that was going to work for me was a difficult adjustment as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know, like, I would be literally beside myself. Not that I get super starstruck, but I mean, you know, I feel like every CrossFit guy has a crush on Rich Froning because he's the man. So, you know, I might kind of botch a few workouts at the start, but it's super cool to hear that, you know, you being the alpha character that you are, you just come in and you're like, yeah, I'm going to run the show around here, right?
No, not at all. I mean, I definitely, you know, wanted to hold my own. I think that's like, they wouldn't want someone to come into the team and be like, oh, like you guys are so amazing. I can't keep up. You know, like you want to come in and be like, I can do this. I'm capable of this. I'm going to work really hard and make it happen, you know, because that's what you got to be if you're going to try and compete at the top level.
Oh, absolutely. And then a quick side story. So amongst your injuries, though, you still did find time to go paintballing for the first time in your life, correct?
I did. That was back in New Hampshire with a really weird person I know.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I think, like you said, your natural athleticism definitely shined, and you just did a tremendous job on that. So, so getting away from that, you go back to the games and kick ass. And for anyone who doesn't know, I think you guys won first place, right?
I think so. That's what I remember.
So the world's fittest CrossFit team in 2018.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So best, what would you say was the something that jumps the forefront of your mind, like best takeaway from this year's games versus when you went in 2016?
I think this year's games was just a lot more fun for me, and I think that's part of the attraction to be on team is when you're in the corrals and stuff, which are normally, especially as me for an individual athlete, it was like a very stressful point where you're just like thinking about the workout and it's just you out there and you're all alone. And this year it was like me and 7 other people because we had 2 teams there, and we were most of the time in the crowd near each other, and we're all just like goofing off and just being silly and having fun. And I think that was just a really cool experience to go and be. Obviously it wasn't 100% fun all the time, but to have a lot more fun just because you're not in it alone. So I thought that was kind of like the best part.
And now when you leave the games now, like, are you as hard on yourself about what you need to improve on as you were in 2016, or being on a team, like, is it a little bit easier to be like, you know, I'm not a complete athlete, but I'm, you know, I can improve, maybe not stress as much this off season, if that makes sense. You know what I'm getting with that?
I totally know what you're saying. I honestly feel like what I learned this year, which is kind of crazy, is I thought that team was going to be less stressful and easier, and it's actually, for me personally, I felt like it was more stressful and more difficult because whereas, like, when you have weaknesses as an individual, you go out on the floor and those weaknesses only affect you. So, like, it's only affecting my performance. But if I go out on the floor and my weakness shines and it hurts 3 other people, it was definitely a different situation as far as I felt a lot more pressure from myself because I didn't want to let these 3 people down. You know, they're on my team, and I think the off season actually breeds more of like, you need to close any gaps you have, because if a workout comes up and you're going to literally ruin it for 3 other people, that's that's something you just don't even want to think about, because you don't want to let anyone down, especially people you care about.
Right. Yeah, I never really thought of it like that. Like, if you're an individual, you can almost like you say, kind of make damage control workouts. Whereas on a team, like, if it's a great workout for 3 of your athletes and the 4th person like just shits the bed, like, that's not meant to be a damage control workout, and now all of a sudden it has to be. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't even think about that. And so what is your take? You obviously got to compete with a 6-person team. Did you like it more or less, 6 versus 4? Like, was that a good move on CrossFit's part, or what?
I definitely think the 4-person team was a good move, just because it does up the opportunity to do more things. With 6 people in workouts, it can be really difficult to make them, as exciting and as challenging as you could be with 4, just because there's less moving parts. I did really enjoy being on a 6-person team. I do think, I enjoyed it, I guess, the same, but I think that a 4-person team is more difficult in the sense that they can make the workouts harder and force you guys to be doing more individual based stuff where you have to all be good at, many things, whereas sometimes you can plug and play with 6-person teams and just hide someone's weakness completely.
True. This is a side note, but for some reason, when I think about this year's games, I try to picture you, I just think about that box jump workout where you just were giving the greatest mannerisms after legitimately every jump. And that was just amazing. That's you 24/7 basically.
Wow, thank you. That was the worst experience of the games, mostly because I was full red line by the time we even got to the box jumps. And I've never, I go to red line a lot. I feel like I can do it often, but when I look at that workout, the point of where my body was at, I didn't know if I was going to make it. I thought I was going to have to lay down and not even finish the workout. And when you're in your mind and you're talking to yourself, I'm like, Tasia, you have 10 reps to go. Let's pick it up. And I was just like, I can't. So I'm 5 reps to go. Pick up the pace. 3 reps to go. Pick up the pace. And I'm like, I can't. At the last rep, I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. I had 1 rep left, and normally you're like, let's go. I was literally I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it because I was so far red line. Just making myself walk to the edge of the field with everything in me rather than just laying on the floor. So I mean, that's not how the workout went in training, but you never know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's an adrenaline dump or what, and it, just taking more of the squats and more of the push press, just forced me into kind of a deep hole. But, it happens, and we ended up not doing terrible in that, so it was fine.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. Like you said, sometimes life just pops up and your body might just react differently to a different circumstance. So, final question on this, because I don't want to beat the whole 2018 thing to death. And honestly, it can kind of piggyback on this last question, but so, I mean, even in that workout, you're outside, the rings are kind of swinging on you, a lot of athletes are having trouble jumping on the rings because of the wind. So, what was your take, Madison versus California? A good switch? Do you miss California? It seems like the workouts obviously got completely swapped once they made that switch. What was your thought on that transition?
So I did really like California. I thought it had, the arenas and stuff that were there, that we used to compete in were great. Obviously, you can't really mimic the tennis stadium. That's what everyone talks about. You can't really mimic that. So I did miss that, but I thought Madison was awesome, and I really did think that it was better for fans. There's more opportunity for fans to be, closer and to see things with the outdoor stadiums, and just be a little bit more involved, and everything ran smooth. And I thought it was cool that the town, everything in Madison kind of gears up for the games. Like all the restaurants have CrossFit menus and everyone just knows what's happening and there's just people around. Like it was cool to have a smaller town, whereas in Carson, when you leave the venue, it's just like you're in a giant city, that doesn't really have like that homey feel. So
yeah,
I thought they're both great, but I really did enjoy Madison more than I thought I would.
cool. Yeah, cool. I guess I can kind of like see that, like it's almost like a high school football game where like the entire town is all revved up versus when you're in California, you're kind of just like just a little sideshow that's going on. Like there's so many people that are still going amongst their business that it's not a big deal. So that's interesting. Wrapping up here, we're almost done. What is your take on the new CrossFit Games layout? I mean, I know this is opening up a whole slew of what other people's podcasts and blogs and whatever, but let's hear it from good old Tasia. What's your take on this?
I mean, I don't want to give too much of an insight just because we don't really know exactly what it's going to look like as far as rules and regulations.
Right.
I don't think that it is, I don't think it's great for those athletes. Most athletes, I really don't think it's great for as far as like extending the season, our bodies and just beating up your bodies over and over. And then, possibly looking at a scenario where you're doing multiple big competitions to try and qualify is also really hard on your body and financially very expensive. So I do think that it's going to possibly hurt the sport as far as, there'll be less people either trying to qualify. Like I don't know if we'll necessarily find the fittest, or the fittest group. Like we might still find the fittest person on earth because, like Tia or Fraser or like people like that will naturally qualify. But then even if they're doing one person from each country, which I don't know if that's true, we're definitely, going to be making the pool of people much weaker. So I don't think from, competitive standpoint, it's going to be great for many people. But, I understand that Glassman does want to, the focus should be on people who are, losing hundreds of pounds and doing all these things. And that is definitely true too. I just think that they're two very separate entities, the games versus CrossFit for health. 99% of people who do CrossFit aren't trying to go to the games. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I think we'll know a little bit more and everyone will have clearer perspectives once we know exactly what the rules and regulations are going to be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've competed at Wadapalooza, you've competed at Granite Games, so you kind of know the turmoil that puts you through, and then to kind of, if you don't come in, so I guess if you don't come in first place, it's kind of like a wash unless you just went to do those competitions for fun.
Totally.
So it's going to be interesting. I mean, my upsetting thing about the whole thing is like, the Open is always special, I think, for everybody, and now it kind of like, I don't know if it deflates the Open, but it just kind of makes it like just something to do. It's not like, you could come, like I could come in 10th this year and yes, I'd be happy, but it's like, okay,
it doesn't matter,
like, okay, like I could do a local comp, like I could, just go to a random box and do that and put my my money towards that. So whatever, like you said, we'll see once the rule book comes out and everything.
Yeah, I do think it will deflate the Open, and I do think we'll see, a lot less people sign up just because, like, there was like a point where there was a lot of people who were trying to qualify for regionals or even just be in the bubble of like getting their video taken, which is like, that's something that gyms get around and people get around and they're participating because, John at their gym's trying to go to regionals and they want to be there and see him work out, and it's just, if you have to win the Open to move on in any way, the likelihood is you're not going to. So I do think we'll see less people sign up.
Now, when you say you, do you mean like me in particular, or are you just speaking in generalities?
Like of qualifying? I don't think it's going to be hard in generalities for most people to be winning the Open.
Okay, all right. Well, I might win the Open this year, but we'll leave
I
it
wish
at
you
that.
the
So,
best.
all right. Well, I'll definitely beat you in a few Open workouts, so we can guarantee that. But anyways, moving on. Almost done here. What do you got going on at Mayhem? Is there anything fun or exciting that you guys are doing? In the fall, or how's things there?
Things are great. I think everything's kind of getting a little bit shifted now with the new format, whereas normally we'd be kind of like, off season, thinking about, like the beginning of season being March. We're thinking about the beginning of our season being December.
Right.
So it's definitely a different shift because of the new format. So just kind of already where we were not too far to the games, I guess like a month, and we're already like revving back up. It's kind of like a weird feeling, but it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Can't wait for another year, So, yeah, all good stuff.
Woo! All right. Well, that was great. Let me, my final question here, and I just want you to give us a massive tearjerker here. So, obviously, you have a decent-sized social media following, and I'm sure that many girls and potentially some guys, of course, me for one, look up to you. What would be the biggest impact you would like to leave on this earth? Let's hear it.
I mean, for me, it's just, I feel that, my purpose here on this earth is to spread love and joy to as many people as possible. So I guess just to be a positive impact on as many people's lives as I can, and that would be it, just to show, men and women that you can do and be whoever you want to be. You can look however you want to look, and, that's okay. Just, to just keep moving forward with joy and love and all that.
I love it. That was perfect. All right. Well, that was great. You have successfully completed all of my questions with A+ answers. And I'm so happy that you carved some time out of your busy schedule to talk to your dear old pal, John. So you'll see me soon. I know that. And do you have anything for me?
Nope, that's it. Just I want to remind anyone who's listening that I put John in the dirt way more often than he put me in the dirt. So just remember that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I, again, thank you so much for spending time with me, and I wish you the best. If anybody is listening, go follow Tasia, because she's amazing sometimes, and stay happy, stay healthy, stay fit, and we will talk later.
Sounds
good.
Bye,
Tasia.
Bye. Thank you for having me.